करें
Okay, so I'm a little bit your introduction. Aamer Kaleem is a principal program manager with teams engineering at Microsoft. His primary focus areas are product strategy, customer engineering, and advocacy and field technical enablement. He is executive interface for Microsoft Teams customers to help them achieve time to value. Aamer has continuously been recognized as top talent since joining Microsoft back in 2008. He has represented Microsoft at leading industry and vendor events for last few years, and he is very well known in unified communication circles as subject matter expert. Aamer is known for his outstanding skills to articulate Microsoft real-time communication and collaboration vision, and he has earned great credibility with IT leader of Fortune 1000 companies around the world. Prior to joining Microsoft, Aamer was part of product management and engineering team at Global Swiss Investment Bank UBS, where he led architecture design in various IT disciplines. Aamer has served as key advisor to senior IT management on matters of policy, strategy, and budgeting relating to data center and network telecom technologies. Aamer is 30 plus years veteran of enterprise collaboration, IT architecture, data center design, and telecommunication data networking technologies. And he holds industry prestigious certification from Cisco and Microsoft. Obviously, he is from the Air Force and has done his computer science master's and obviously bachelor's in avionics engineering. Aamer, as before this role, Aamer was chief technical officer for Skype for business and traveled around the world and earned 1.6 billion for Microsoft. With this, I hand it over to Aamer. Thanks, Aamer, for your time. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Salahuddin. And so it's a pleasure and a treat to be among friends, especially from people from College of Aeronautical Engineering and Air Force. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and put together a few slides. Just wanted to make sure that we have something on the screen as a reference. Nothing special there. And I really appreciate the kind words, Salahuddin, you basically just said about me. So I've put together a very quick timeline. So you can see that I think the most rewarding experience in my life was 10 years that I spent in Pakistan Air Force. That's where actually the grooming happened. That's where the etiquettes of how public speaking happens, how you interact with people, how you approach engineering from economics standpoint and from outcome standpoint. That's what I learned there. So as I started my career in corporate America in '99, I started in a small member firm in Chicago Mercantile Exchange. And that actually, the analogy I usually give people to my Air Force friends is that if you have served in on an Air Force base, that's where you learn, that when you launch and recovery aircraft, you learn from a hard way, that things there on the job training. And that's what happened with the trading institutions and the traders and stuff like that. And from there, I got a chance to join Swiss Bank. That was part of the tech bubble crash, and after that I'm really thankful to God Almighty gave me an opportunity to join a very large organization, global organization like Swiss Bank, which essentially gave me the horizon I needed and a platform to learn about a global telecom network and global IP network. That's where I did my CCIE as well. And that's allowed me to contribute and learn and participate in global RFPs of multi-million dollars. And part of that experience, I got introduced to many tier one carriers and great telecom vendors like Nortel, Avaya, Cisco, and Microsoft. I had come back, had a very IP networking and telecom background, a data sort of a guy. So I had not paid attention to Microsoft technologies till that time. Part of that, my responsibility at Swiss Bank was to look for a new solution. And part of that evaluation of a unified communication solution, I got a chance to visit Microsoft in 2006, I believe. And where the innovation was, where it was, where the software, I would say, has moved on. I've been started to pay more attention from hardware to software. And I learned that, the possibilities that software allows. And so I decided that I need to go and work in the software industry, and that's what I did. So in 2008, then I joined Microsoft in their incubation team, and I was very fortunate to be part of the team who was hired to basically develop a new offering, enterprise voice offering for Microsoft. And I got a chance very early on to become the face of Microsoft as their CTO for Lync Voice and subsequently Skype for Business. Got a chance to travel around the world, have been almost every continent on the planet, very rewarding and great learnings again. Met partners, both in system integration space, telecom space, and customers from Department of Defenses all the way to big corporations, banks around the world. Great learning and trying to help them to adopt the technology. And then when our business became mature, we decided that we need to fold the incubation business into the mainline system. At that time, there was a decision point in my life. I thought that I should go back to core where I came from, means the engineering. So I decided to take on a role within engineering, and I stayed close to the technology because I love telecom, I love communications. So I stayed close to that technology and joined Skype Engineering. And Skype Engineering, then in 2018, we basically merged with Teams. And with that, it's such a reward to work for a company where their products are used by hundreds of millions of people. And the things you develop basically are making difference in the lives of others. Well, one thing which is really interesting, which I learned, is this, which was that, our industry does not respect tradition. So, where we came from, I had a huge value. I'm an Army kid myself, so tradition is a big deal in my life. And coming myself as an Air Force person, traditions which we lived on. So I thought that it was important to understand that with the tradition, innovation is very, very important and continue to progress. And then you must have seen this from our CEO from Microsoft that, 2 years worth of digital transformation happened in 2 months. Well, there is a joke that it is happening every sort of month here. And, history tells us the same. So if you look at history, the people who adopted the newer technology, the people who were comfortable with the newer technology and they were ready to embrace it, they were successful. We have that, in the highest level of the office in the land that happened back in 60s. So this is how we know the world. This is how we grew up in this world. People are connecting with each other. People are, sharing their experiences, capturing. People are networking with each other. But, that whole thing has gone upside down in 2020. Our world has changed forever. And that change requires that we basically think that how, as individuals, that we basically sat across the table, build those networkings and relationships and ideas, exchange of that ideas, which led to more innovative businesses and products, and that which went national to global. I look at almost every probably known company, you would see that a bunch of friends and people started that. And that's how it became a global Fortune 500 or global Fortune 1000 company. That's what basically was the focus was on priorities, on it was never, yes, obviously people, companies do, value their, their employees, their people, but it was more on the product, on the services they offer. The pandemic has actually told us that the important thing is that culture. The important thing is that the social capital you have, that drives the intellectual property. There is another narrative, which is rightly so, that every business, every company, every organization on the planet, it themselves have become a software company. So this social capitalism, this, the culture of that is extremely important. And that comes from the well-being of the people of that organization. And more so in this, challenging times. So ability for people to continue to participate, continue to learn, continue to stay engaged. Things, we all miss those days when we could go out on lunch together with our colleagues, with our friends, or with our customers, with our affiliates, or on coffee breaks, and a lot of conversation and ideas, exchange happen during those interactions. So it is important to, create, imagine the work, imagine the interaction that we can emulate what was happening in the physical world as we move forward. And hopefully with this great news of vaccine, things will start to go towards normal. But the world has changed. We may not ever go back to that world. So we have to be prepared for that. And for that, we need to make decisions based on data. We need to make decisions based on expertise, and we need to harness those things, to automate things, to make sure the diversity of ideas are there. We are including everybody as part of that. And then that modern way of thinking, that would basically, in my humble opinion, would create this whole bunch of opportunities for a group like this, who are the thought leaders in their field where they are, and they can come up with innovative ideas to help businesses, to help people around, to help nonprofits, to people around them and societies around them, to cope up with these hard times and challenging times. So the two which, in my humble opinion, are extremely important about the list of that 7 principles I basically shared with you, essentially is one is the ability to, to use that social capital to bridge the divide, digital divide, to digitize the world. So I think even before pandemic, if you include the world as a whole overall, the total digitization of the world is no more, in my humble opinion. I don't have a data to back, but my anecdotal thinking is that it was no more than 35%. So there was a huge opportunity to begin with. And now, ever more, after this experience of living in 8 months of this new normal, I think there is well understood at all levels of the society and organizations and different verticals that digitization is the key. So that brings with the people who are going to do is that their well-being, their stress level, and the technologies and the solution we build has to be part of that the well-being of the individuals and focus on the people has to be there. So what is important there is essentially that because we're talking in a businesses and enterprise world here and enterprise space here, it is important to, to see that what all signaling is happening, what data is being generated, and how that data set could be structured in a way that you could then aggregate and present it to the decision makers, that they can basically make informed decisions and the right decisions, both about individuals and about the corporations themselves, organizations themselves. So essentially, this amount of data which is being generated by individuals and by organizations, that allows to make those decisions to where to invest and what to do. What these, how people work, it gives you that understanding looking at that data. In this change world, you need to adjust the flexibility of schedule, the hybrid work, that sort of thing. So you can look at that data at the individual level, and you can understand their personas, and then look at the persona, that each persona and their story, that how their work looks like, and you build solutions for them. So it's all, in my opinion, is even though that's challenging time, and we all wish that this would be over soon, but this creates opportunities for us to make contributions, not only to benefit, to profit, but also for the larger good of the society as well. And I think people are willing, if you are willing to make those contributions, I find the larger society actually is willing to pay for that. So it's okay to get to be profitable, you know, and to have people pay for what ideas you bring on the table. So that's how I think the signaling which is happening in a given organization, how people work, you should be able to facilitate that to as simple, let me go to a few examples that what is the next phone call I'm going to make. So prediction using AI models, or you know, when I'm scheduling a conversation, and then what people or what content needs to come in, because there's a historic perspective behind it. So that signaling brings that with that. I think the technology space which I'm working in, which is the teamwork technology space, and all, I think our partners our competition is doing a great job as well there. So the healthy competition and that positive tension actually drives innovation. So I really like that in that space, you know, I'm that space, and there's an opportunity. So just because I come from Microsoft, so and in this particular, if you look at the leftmost icon, which is Microsoft Team, that's where team I sit on. It's essentially days in where this thought comes from. The days of just communicating has gone away. People actually don't communicate, they collaborate. People collaborate, and when they collaborate, the humans, what they do is they create content or consume content. And either way, when they create content, they want to share it, and when you consume, obviously they are getting shared that content to them. So you need that underlying mechanisms, that ease of sharing your ideas, actual contents, and making something happen. And that's what I think what we, at least on the Microsoft, are trying to do to make sure that everybody on this planet can do more. So with that, I think that was probably pretty much is. Really be happy to answer any questions you have about strategy. I wanted to keep it a little bit high level and see if there's questions around opportunity, approach, what people are doing in this space and teamwork and collaboration space. Happy to answer those questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Kaleem Sahab, for introduction and for all these details that you provided. This reminds me of my master's that I'm doing right now from Germany, Web Science Masters, with all these elements of collaboration and use of all these technologies.
Thank you, sir.
In fact, I thought this lecture was like one of my collaboration class, maybe.
More of sharing experiences and thoughts than a lecture, I would say. That I think I like to get the conversation going and see that various parts of the world we come together, each have their own unique you know, challenges and opportunities, how to basically map them together to come up with the solutions.
I think that's right.
Aamer, this is sorry.
Go ahead.
नहीं सर, आप बात करें.
मैं just आमिर से ये पूछना चाहता हूँ. He talks of a new world order. You think it will continue to be so? I mean, human mind is a very complex thing. You know, events happen, things happen. Yes, dynamics change. You know, but human nature जो है इतनी जल्दी change होती नहीं मेरे ख्याल में. When you talked of, you know, cultural or social or whatever values there are, traditions, ये जरा time लगता है इनको change होते. Maybe they are tainted, or maybe उनके ऊपर थोड़ा सा वो modify हो जाती हैं, कुछ हो जाती हैं. But end of the day, human nature doesn't change. So मेरे लिहाज से world orders change होते रहते हैं. But interaction of human beings, regardless of whatever automation that you do, or पिछली दफा भी है artificial intelligence पे, we talked about, you know, human and machine interaction, machines taking over or whatever it is. But मेरे लिहाज से there could be a new world order for a while, but maybe there could be another world order after some time. You know, when, you know, वो उसमें बेसिक सबसे ज़्यादा जो चीज इम्पोर्टेंट है, दैट इज योर जो इंसान की अपनी वो है द नेचर. So it is not, I don't think pandemic could change your thinking totally. Yes, maybe थोड़े अरसे के लिए it will. थोड़ा अरसा, when I say maybe 10 years, 20 years, or whatever it is. But उसके बाद again, you know, likes of things will change again. Maybe it will not be a pandemic, it may be something else. So इस बारे में क्या ख्याल है तुम्हारा, आमिर? How do you think things would, you know, shape up?
Sir, I think I tend to agree, but I'll put a different color to it. Let me say the way it's my personal observations on this. I think if you look at what happened in last 8 months, you know, all the corporate offices in the what you call developed world, they're pretty much empty right now. Big buildings in downtowns and stuff like that. And we all adapted as a human being is God has created in us in a way that we can very quickly adapt, you know, things. But at the same time, if the things go back normal, we are very quickly go back to our old habits as well, bad habits, I would call them, right? So you're right. There would be, what I think the argument I have in my mind is that we could be just enabler or facilitators to bridge the communication and bridge that digital divide, right? So ability for people to bring more diverse idea, and this technology can do that. So people in this call, this right now conversation is a very good example of that. The people from Middle East, from Pakistan, from North America is coming together to have a conversation. So that connectivity would help. You know, that it's obviously it cannot the human behavior and human attitude does not change overnight. It takes years and centuries, but the bringing then people of diverse ideas come together would help that. If you may allow me, I would share one example in my mind. I'm forgetting the name of the gentleman. He was on National Public Radio here in USA a couple of years back. He basically asked the question, his audience, that said, hey, what do you think that how fast the collective knowledge of humanity doubled in the times of steam engine days? And the answer for that was, you know, actually that it was something in the range of 200 and 250 years, right? And then he basically said that, and then move a little bit forward with the aviation and everything and people traveling and connectivity again, that what do you think that the collective knowledge of humanity, you know, doubles? I think that I'm missing a couple of steps here, but the point was that it is now actually with this latest where we in 2020 or 2019 where we were living on at the time, it's around 2 years sort of a thing. And with if you infuse it with the internet and the connectivity, it was coming out, you know, to be even less than that. And then he made that, hey, there is a one prediction by 2050, the collective knowledge of humanity would double in less than 72 hours. And I think we are approaching that, in my opinion. And that's what probably this pandemic has shown us as well.
Aamer, this is Aslam Khan. I am from Fourth Engineering, right? अच्छा, ये जो आपने बताया pandemic की वजह से, yeah, that was probably the biggest curse which has happened to the world. But then there is a second opinion. You know, there is the other angle to this. What we have seen in these last 8 months, that in the US in particular, the stock markets went down and then they have come up again. And who's earned out of that? You know, the stock markets have gone up. And it is the high-tech companies like your company, Microsoft, Google, AWS, Amazon, and Apple and all that. You know, okay, they have gained maximum. And I think there is a truth in that. If you look at the market capitalization of these companies combined, they are now about $6 to $7 trillion. Whereas the small and medium enterprises, they are in a problem, and small businessmen, and this is what has happened all over the world. So what explanation do you have for this? You see, because there are a lot of conspiracy theories floating around, which obviously I don't believe. But then, when this kind of thing happens, that you earn so much of wealth, so much of, the market capitalization increases by trillions of dollars. Maybe there is some truth into this. What is your take on this?
Very difficult question to answer because my expertise don't lie in that area, but I'll share again my thoughts. So first of all, very nice to meet you, sir. I hope everything is okay at your end.
Alhamdulillah.
I think I would say that if you look at from a market capitalization standpoint, from a stock market standpoint, it's not only the company itself, obviously there are big stakeholders, but there are a lot of other forces who want to profit from it. So in my opinion, that the ability for the market, for these companies to control about $6 trillion or, $7 trillion, top, 5, 6, or 7 companies of the world, technology companies of the world, that's true. But at the same time, we need to look at their culture and how they're investing back into their communities where they are operating. Maybe if there is a good indication of the people there, that their realization is there that there is something that they got blessed, they got benefited out of the opportunity which this challenge brought. Is there a way to invest back? I'm probably going to end up defending the whole tech industry here, but where I live in Seattle area, and if you have ever explored that, you'll realize that it is very, very expensive from a housing standpoint. So the people who are in the service sector, the people who are native to here, they are unable to afford where they were born and raised. And so these companies like Amazon, Microsoft, Boeing, in this area, Starbucks, I'm trying to represent the companies here. They have actually started to partner with the local public governments, to reinvest into affordable housing schemes and to offer things like Microsoft. If you in our Seattle area, and if you wanted to get tested for COVID-19, Microsoft would facilitate that. Almost to free of cost. What I'm trying to say is that the human nature to benefit and greed, we are all well versed of it. I don't need to go there. But hope is there that there are still good people and good leadership who basically would continue to make the decisions to try to make the world a better place and keep reinvesting. I was once, I think this was 2013 or something, I was actually visiting Saudi Arabia, and I was in Saudi Aramco. That was question asked of us actually by one of the Saudi Aramco leaders, that, hey, Microsoft makes millions of dollars from Saudi Arabia. Do you even reinvest back in Saudi Arabia for development of the people? And I was really, I'm proud to share that the information we shared, and obviously that's a proprietary information here, but it satisfied our client that yes, that we are making enough effort, at least directionally, that we are trying to contribute back. And we were willing to become partners with Saudi Aramco to say that, hey, how much what you make those efforts, we'll be able to join forces with you. So they were glad to hear that. Similarly, if you remember at that time, there was a very disastrous flooding happened in Pakistan. And I was pretty new to Microsoft, I think 3-4 years. And not even that I had thought of, but our HR chief people person, she is no more with Microsoft, but she actually initiated a campaign. And within 24 hours, we had to raise millions of dollars from Microsoft employees to support people back in Pakistan. So what I'm trying to say is that I'm not negating your observations. It's always would be a fight between good and a bad, or good and evil. And if we have still hope there that there are good people who will take those steps to contribute back, to make difference in other people's life, I think we should partner there, and we should be force multipliers there.
Okay, good enough.
Aamer, Ahmed, this is Salim Rahman from G2. I'll take up from where Aslam left. uh, we all know there's a huge digital gap between the developed countries and the underdeveloped countries like ours. And of course, it became much more obvious and accentuated during the recent COVID thing. My question is, what is Microsoft doing or planning to do to bridge this gap? Because as we all say, it's becoming one global village now, and the underdeveloped countries need to come closer to the developed countries in the huge digital divide that exists at the moment. That's my
Sir,
question.
great question. Sir, nice to talk to you and nice to be connected with you. It's a
Thanks.
great question. I have been very fortunate that I have visited my own country, Pakistan, as a representative of Microsoft and got a chance to meet many, many customers and colleagues, ex-colleagues there. I actually have visited Air Force as a vendor. So as as an ex-Air Force guy, it was really interesting to go back to those corridors of power of Air Force in Islamabad and meet people there. What I would say, sir, that it's a two-way street to begin with, right? So the opportunities, obviously, the people who have the means, like Microsoft, they need to create opportunities, and the other people on the other side, people should be willing to take advantage of that, right? And we do have created a lot of programs where we offer a lot of training, even before pandemic. And at the same time, we create opportunities where we can, if we can lower the barrier to the entry in the digital world by virtue of adjusting the commerce or cost of acquisition, or by virtue of creating opportunity, those companies like Microsoft can make a big difference in developing world and emerging markets, and that's what we do. I sometimes compare in South Asia versus Latin, and sometimes in Southeast Asia, and I see a remarkable difference between approaches. So, for example, in Middle East and Pakistan, for example, and Africa, difference between them of approaches versus the Latin. I find, in my observation, that people are more willing to rely on technology and invest in technology to further climb the ladder and do a betterment of overall social uplift of the people. I mean, the public sector. And the public sector policies are more aligned towards that. Well, there are other issues, as you know, any part of the world, here in North America as well. But that's what I find. I'll give you one more example. So even though I live in Seattle, I still call myself that I'm from Chicago, because I've lived 20 years in Chicago. Illinois was my home. And neighboring states, Wisconsin, Iowa, Indiana, Michigan, they, during election season, would have a huge advertisement campaign going on inside Illinois, trying to lure business with lowering taxes and giving incentives to businesses to come out of Chicago or of Illinois and go and set up their shops in Wisconsin and Indiana. And that actually told you at the local level how much they actually were thinking about that. And that would mean that if the more businesses were going to invest in Indiana, more jobs would be created and the social uplift would happen. I think same way, and they would basically study Illinois law, taxation, and then adjust their taxation to include that. Same way, if the neighborhood you are living on, if you look at that, there is great opportunity. I sometimes scratch my head that why people, especially in Pakistan, do not even just simply look at the telecom, regulations of their neighbors, and they can create just adjusting and make it easier and lowering the barrier. So much influx of business because of the, the complexity on the other side of the border. I think it is amazing. I think it's a matter of thought leadership. It's a matter of putting some people, have the public, leaders putting a direction and research in universities and schools that's how people think about it, that how this whole, think they can contribute to in a policy phase, which would basically then create those economic benefits and opportunities for people.
That's good. Thanks.
So
Thank you,
Aamer,
Aamer.
so Aamer, this is Kaswar.
Hi, Kaswar.
I'm really happy to listen to your thoughts on behavioral approach. So you're a great behavioral scientist as well, besides being an IT guy. But I want to pull you back to your collaborative tool engineering profession and learn to really want to know about that side. So from business's point of view, processes, workflows, people, and technology, all these elements needs to be very cohesive, communicating with each other to make sure that that organization or that industry flourishes. So what I have been looking at, that the technological changes, which has been very rapidly coming and coming in a very, very incoherent way, those things have even caused a negative impact on cultural understanding of the people as well. And that's, I believe, and equally they have kind of caused decay and confusion in the processes and workflows as well. So I would say that these all key elements of a business organization, they have costed a severe impact on decision making, because all these elements, they generate such a noise in the data that senior leadership is unable to make prudent decisions and aware decisions. So I would say this is the reason that I have seen companies failing for last more than a decade or so. So I need your expert opinion that how to create coherence of processes, workflows, people, and technology to make sure that they are coming up in such a consistent and collaborative way that we generate a very valid and reliable and correct analytics that executives are able to, without any confusion, take a pinpoint and accurate decision. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Kaswar, very well said. I would tell you that if I could describe in one term, I've led many metrics organization around the world. People sometimes were, multi-level senior than me, and they probably were working for me, or they had deliverables, towards me, and I had to work with them to get those things done. I think the piece which drives that is clarity. At the top of the leadership level, it is extremely important that the mission of that organization, of that business, of that enterprise, of that country, of that city, of that state is very clear to the constituents. And every level in that organization or that entity, the stakeholders understand that that they are stakeholders. The members of that organization or society, they understand that they are stakeholders, and that comes with a top level clarity. Now, after clarity is accountability. If you do not have an accountability, then it's a problem. And then accountability comes with the data, right? You cannot have an anecdotal accountability. It has to be metrics, and those metrics are very well understood. The success, how you define success, and so obviously up to every enterprise, entity, country, society to decide what is the success metrics what they believe as per their values, as per what they want to go, where they want to go. But those things, I would say, as a principal level, that the clarity, that the direction, the mission, and then how we hold ourselves accountable, and then what are the leading indicators of those? If those are, and then those are cascaded all the levels down, that becomes done. Once you have that, then these things like technologies come in. These are technologies, just a tool at that point to make it happen for you, to make those dashboards and analytics, surface them at the right surfaces so that you can make those informed decisions. So I'm going to leave there. I hope I'm answering your question.
No, you absolutely did answer part of the question. That executives, they don't have a clarity. Exactly, because they're not getting the right data and right analytics, because technologies that the large companies, I'm talking of the large companies, because failings mainly happen in the large companies. So then different teams, they work in silos, they have their own tools. So whatever data everyone is generating at the top level, it is not coherent. Same kind of data is in the different forms and the different numbers and different quantities and qualities. So yes, we can blame C-suite also for not having clarity, but I would put the blame on technology, because technological vendors, they are confusing people in a way. The technological vendors, they generate so many rapid updates and bugs into the system. And then the companies, they are not clear. They do not understand what to use and what not to use. So teams, they start picking their own vendors. And those vendors' tools, they do not communicate with each other. So like you're from Microsoft, my one team or two teams, they pick up a team, and the other vendor, they pick up dial pad, and the other vendor, they pick up some other Chinese thing. So these damn things, they do not communicate with each other at all. This is my point, that I would say that this highly diverse and highly confused technological updates, they are rather putting kind of a stress on the companies and failing them, because the C-suite and executives, they do not understand, they're not clear what the hell to use.
If I may answer this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm Tanveer Qureshi from G8. This is, I think, point is quite valid, but the thing is, our top level, they are not educated people.
Yeah, that's
it is only the education that will remove all these things, I tell you.
That's a big problem. So leadership has...
This is my answer. My answer. Education is the answer.
With you. Sir, I agree with you. That means that this is a leadership crisis all around the world, at teams, at companies, at countries level and everywhere. So might as well get rid of Donald Trump as well as get rid of Imran Khan.
No. I think it is the education of people who matters in technology.
Yeah, it's everywhere actually. It's.
No, I'm giving my own example. As I'm doing my master's in web science, I know what is coordination, what is collaboration. What tools are there? What tools to use?
So you're right. I agree with you. So leadership is not educated. That's very clear. It is visible everywhere, and that's why the world has frozen all around. So
what's the problem?
So let's educate the leadership.
Exactly.
Okay. all you guys around, such intelligentsia around. Let's इनको जरा पढ़ा लिखाओ ना यार. I mean, go ahead. Mashallah, I think.
Sir, जब तक वो खुद पढ़ने लिखने के काबिल नहीं होंगे.
उनको जबरदस्ती करेंगे यार.
सर
यही पॉइंट में तो जबरदस्ती की जाती है.
सर यही पॉइंट सर आमिर कलीम ने यही पॉइंट दिया है कि people are not willing to learn. There has been so much of space has been created that one is leadership weakness. Leadership is they're not educated, they are not kind, they're not empathetic. They are having huge expanded egos. They want to have kind of their own satisfaction.
Kasper, if I'm cutting you in, but I'll give you my another comment here. So there are two ways to do it. And I think both should happen, top down and bottom up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So we are talking right now top down. And I think I'm with Sir Shahid. Go on and let's educate them. But the point is, there is an example next door neighbor to us where it has happened from bottom up, right? And still the leadership is not educated there, right? They're still making bad decisions overall, not for their own society, but larger for the world. But what I'm trying to say is that the people have shown that they can put their mind together, and they were just trying to innovate and create more opportunity for themselves. And part of that, they created an opportunity for others. So it was creating that, wave effect that as the wave is rising, everything is rising with it. And so I think now I would go back to what Sir Shahid saying, let's go and educate the leaders. But I think we should not forget the power of the masses. We need to make sure that from our schools and make small adjustments so that our kids come out with with this mindset that innovative ideas and entrepreneurial skills, that they're willing to take on things. I think things have changed since I left back home in 98, 99. I think things have changed, which I keep hearing. But look at our example, your own example, my example. When I landed, I probably had $300 in Chicago. Alhamdulillah, what I brought was knowledge, right? I was educated by somebody, an institute called Pakistan Air Force. And that helped me to continue the education and put my head down and keep myself out of the trouble. And people actually respected what contributions we all could bring. And given where we are, we were given the opportunities. So opportunities are created in society. So that's how we should approach it, in my opinion.
Yes, absolutely.
Very well said. Totally agree.
Yes. Aamer, another question from me, Aslam Khan. Hello.
Yes, sir.
हाँ, अच्छा सुनाई. अच्छा, what are you doing कि ये Chinese का जो threat है आपके लिए, they are a real threat. It's not a perceived threat. So what are you guys doing? I mean, I'll just give you an example. The way they have progressed in the last 15, 20 years. Huawei, you see, I was working for telecom, and in 2003, Huawei bidded for one of we were carrying out an expansion in the network, and we didn't consider them good enough to participate in the tender. Comes 2005-06, and there was a big expansion. There was privatization of the telecom networks, and Huawei again bidded for that, and the prices were so low that we told them to swap the complete network. And it was a Nortel network because of the price constraints only. And can you imagine 2007, 2008, and 2020, and look at them where they are. And the threat is not perceived, as I've already said. It is real. The whole of Africa now is, as far as the telecom and IT is concerned, the market has been captured by the Chinese, Southeast Asia, and everything. And probably one of the reasons of the tariff war is also, the progress that the Chinese are making, and the US wants to stop that. Now, what do you have in your mind? Ya aapke dimag mein kya hai? What strategy are you going to follow to continue to be the most dominant, country as far as telecom and IT is concerned?
It's a great question, sir. Again, so I wish I had part of my experience policy making from a public standpoint, but I don't. I'll be honest. But I'll tell you, what you just said is extremely important standpoint. If you leave that politics and the geopolitical nature of that standpoint, I think whosoever basically would educate themselves and come with innovative ideas and at the prices which people are willing to purchase, their solutions would sell. But there's another thing to it. There is always layers. So if you go in history, you would see that as the technology evolves, if you continue to innovate and invest in research and come up with innovative ideas like nanotechnology or in AI or stuff like that, you're ahead of the rest of your world of peers by investing in those and educating your population. You would always be prosperous, or you will be ahead in technology.
That is what the Chinese are doing exactly. They're investing so much in the technology and everything. If you look at the sir.
यार अमेरिका को भी छोड़ो, चाइना को भी छोड़ो, अपनी हम बात करते हैं.
सर हाँ, उस पे मैं मेरी एक गुजारिश सुनेंगे सर.
Please go ahead.
अच्छा, मेरी एक गुजारिश सुने सर, सर सलीमुर रहमान और मेरा बड़ा वो पॉलिटिकल जो है ना, बड़ा we belong to
Buddy
different
is
camps,
great.
but
Buddy is a
but
great
I'm not
man.
going to discuss that. I just want to make one comment. One individual matters. क्या कहते हैं, आमिर ने तो हमारे जो neighbors हैं उनका नाम नहीं लिया. I will take the name. India में the best thing which happened to them was Nehru, जिसने Indian Institute of Technologies की वो एक chain पूरी खोली. फिर the second best thing which happened to India was Manmohan Singh and Chidambaram.
Yes.
Manmohan Singh was a highly educated economist, and so was Chidambaram. उन्होंने इतना उनको provide किया, you know, the incentive they provided to them and these two institute of technology जो Indian थी, और जो policies मनमोहन सिंह ने किया, तो अब मोदी का बाप भी आ जाए ना, तो जैसे इसने आमिर कह रहे थे कि bottom up, तो वो he cannot, the pace at which the Indians are going, you can't you know stop that. हमारे यहाँ चक्कर ये है कि बिल्कुल इन्होंने सही कहा, एक कॉलेज ऑफ, हमें इतनी खुशी होती है कि हमारे you know our youngsters are doing so very well because of one institution, कॉलेज ऑफ एरोनॉटिकल. तो इसके अलावा अगर बात वही है कि क्या कहते हैं, इसके अलावा जब तक बेसिक लेवल पे ये सारे इंस्टीट्यूट्स नहीं खोले जाएंगे एंड ऑल दैट, तो वो मेरा ख्याल है कि वो कसवर गेव एन एग्जांपल कि इमरान खान को भी छुट्टी कर दें, वो ऐसी बात नहीं है. देयर आर सो मेनी थिंग्स हैपनिंग, probably he's not aware. I think I'll talk to him you know in private कि क्या क्या चीजें हो रही हैं और क्या चीजें क्या कहते हैं इस गवर्नमेंट ने की हैं, because I'm privy to so many things which are happening at least in the telecom and IT sector. You see, तो ऐसा नहीं है कि कुछ नहीं हो रहा, लेकिन सर शायद वाली बात है कि you know कि we have a lot of potential. अल्लाह ताला करे कि हम इसको you know
यार अक्सरम, मैं सिर्फ एक चीज बता दूं, you know we all are doers. अभी आपने बात की है अपने नेबर की, इंडिया की, जो भी है, you know हमारे ही लोग अपने कुछ हम मिल के CA graduates, we are trying to bring Aligarh home.
Right, I know.
इसके बारे में हम डिटेल में मैंने पहले भी बात की है, and like the likes of Aamer and everybody out wherever they are going to be part of that whole thing, inshallah. So हमने भी इस किस्म की चीजें करनी है, तो let's go ahead. यहाँ पे मैंने कहा था ना, we have to teach the leaders, उनको भी हमने करना है. Masses, I think Aamer is right, और masses का भी, masses के लिए भी आपने कुछ ना कुछ करना है. So inshallah Kareem, I think ये जो आपने असल बात की है ना, बड़ी सही बात की है. Countries like us, इनको इस किस्म के steps लेने पड़ेंगे, और वो कौन लेगा? अगर let's say हमारी leadership भी complacent है, you know opposition भी को hope नजर नहीं आती, so you and me have to do these things because we are at that level. You know we were supposedly education wise, otherwise हम लोग इनसे अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह, मैं ये नहीं कहूँगा बेहतर है, but इनसे कम भी नहीं है, और we have the initiative, so let's go for the initiative, मतलब let's do it. So inshallah al-Kareem, I think with all you guys around, I am very hopeful. ये since the time सलाउद्दीन ने ये काम शुरू किया है ना, ये जो ADLA का, मैं तो पता नहीं, I mean मैं और buddy, you know, buddy is there, वो तो मेरे से बहुत आगे है इन चीजों में, but I personally think at my age, I feel so motivated, educated. मैं कहता हूँ यार हम तो अभी पानी कहाँ रह रहे थे, but with this group,
education के लिए कोई age की जरूरत नहीं होती.
हाँ नहीं, you're right, absolutely, but वो हम लोगों की वो ईगो भी तो है ना कि
बस सर ईगो मारनी पड़ती है ना सर.
वो बात सुनो, वो सीनियर के पास हम जाते थे ना, तो वो हमें पहले ही कहता था क्या ये बातें कर रहे हो तुम, उसको नो ऑल सिंड्रोम होता था, कहते जुमा 8 दिन तुम्हारी अभी सर्विस हुई है और तुम्हें हमें सिखाने आए हो, तो ये इस किस्म का सिंड्रोम है हमारे अंदर. Nevertheless, gentlemen, I think it has been an excellent talk. Aamer, thank you so very much. I have to leave, and God bless you all. Allah Taala आपको जिंदगी दे. So let's ये जो मैंने आपको बताया है Aligarh University, it's not Aligarh University, it is Aligarh University. So इस सिलसिले में हम एक summit भी कर रहे हैं Blue Ocean strategy की, and I'd like to invite all of you on that summit, virtually or whatever way you can. Microsoft listening, they should also, do कम अज कम समिट को स्पॉन्सर भी करो यार साथ मिलके, ठीक है ना? इसमें हम काफी बातें करेंगे. Okay, so Allah bless you all. And thank you so much.
Sir. Aamer, can I ask a question if you don't mind?
Sure.
अच्छा, Aamer, मेरा question ये है कि with this pandemic and remote working, now when the distances are diminishing, I mean, it has become in fact irrelevant whether I am working from Toronto or whether I am working from Tanda Mohammed Khan, ठीक है? तो उसमें अब ये जो जॉब का पैराडाइम टोटली शिफ्ट हो रहा है, तो जॉब मार्केट पे और स्पेशली पाकिस्तान जैसे मुल्कों पे क्या फर्क पड़ेगा, मुझे बताओ कि जब अब एक कंपनी है उसको टैलेंट अगर पाकिस्तान से मिलता है या टोरंटो जैसे मिलता है या न्यूयॉर्क से मिलता है, इट डजंट मेक एनी डिफरेंस फॉर द कंपनी एज फार एज द वर्क इज कंसर्न, टैलेंट इज कंसर्न. तो उसमें अपॉर्चुनिटीज क्या है पाकिस्तान के लिए और मेरे जैसे लोगों के लिए प्रॉब्लम क्या है?
So it's an extremely important question. I think to answer that question, first I need to say that what's happening right now and then bring it back to your question actually. So bear with me as I go over it.
Sure.
आमिर इसी में मैं पर एक पॉइंट ऐड करना चाहता हूँ. इतनी डाइवर्सिटी के साथ जब आप जाते हैं तो there are number of other sectors involved. Like you already said that the number of buildings are empty. बहुत सारों के जो दूसरे businesses हैं, those are also being affected. So overall impact on the businesses and innovative things make where difference lies and how one can gain out of it.
Sir, it is important to answer this one first, in my opinion. If you look at what is happening, that buildings are empty, but large corporations, smaller obviously, because there were a lot of smaller businesses or mid-sized business, small, medium businesses were also occupying, but large corporations around the world, from large cities like London, New York, Chicago, LA, or Tokyo, they have not, there is no, sort of exodus of the businesses from those buildings as of yet. So in the last 8 months, nobody knows what the future holds, but that's so far they are holding on to it, right? The construction industry has slowed down, but if you look at places which always been vibrant from construction, like Seattle area, it's still going on. Now, I think the important piece to this is all to connect this, in my opinion, is to understand that what businesses are, how they're approaching, how they're changing their policies from remote work standpoint, going back to Salahuddin's question and try to tie it back to sort of what you are asking as well. The piece is that the very first, what we are beginning to see is that we have to, as a business, have to create flexibility in the workspace, that, where do you work from? So now, earlier, work was a location. Now work is no more a location. So I think that's very, very important concept to begin with. It then drives into things like that. Okay, if I was working in a very expensive area, living in a very expensive area, and a lot of my earnings were going and paying in the, affording that household, with the same salary, can I move to another taxation zone where I can buy similar sort of a lifestyle at a much cheaper, maybe 1/3 of the cost? Yeah, people have done it. And then that creates that, opportunity for as an individual. But, point is that means that it was not fair that I would keep drawing the benefits for a different area and paying tax, not paying taxation for the different area. So both public sector and private sector are coming together, and they are actually addressing that as a policy. So if you look at Microsoft, Facebook, as a matter of Google, I don't know their policies, but I can speak of my employer. They have created a very clear and concise policy where they have created a ramp as well. It's not on and off that you just do it right now. So there is a ramp as well that, hey, we feel that for next 1 year or 8 months, we're going to still be working from home as an official policy. We are not on various, so we created various stages. So we are not at that stage where you are allowed to come back to work. So work with your manager, work with your leadership to figure out what is best for you and what is best for the company, and you can take advantage of that. Now, having said that, now I'm not going into details of the policy again because that's very specific to us, but an important piece which brings it, both opportunities and risks. So people like myself and Salahuddin, or all of us, could be at risk, because you can now as a business go and get the same skill set from places where you have benefits in taxation and the labor market is much more competitive than where we are. That's a risk to us, benefit to businesses, but you will have to balance it based on continuity, the experience, and all the know-how we bring together and the skill set, right? So you will have to really balance it. So there is a risk that's would happen over a period. But at the flip side, I'm really excited that it creates huge opportunity for emerging markets, where people, the location was important, is no more important. So it creates that opportunity for people to uplift themselves and raise their hand and say that I can do it from Tando Alam Yar or Timbuktu, this thing. And people, companies like Microsoft would be willing to look at you now. Before they were not even looking at you because they did not operate in that area. So in my opinion, it's a balancing act. And I think I have a lot of faith, knowing at least my leadership, that they are the type of decisions they are making, and part of things which we are have privy to, that they are doing the right thing. Now, does that mean that that strategy needs to be adjusted over a period for each company, for each entity, for themselves? Yes. At the same time, I'll go back to my original comment. This is where the policymakers in our home country should be paying attention to and creating an opportunity and connectivity. It's not only that where you are, can you really do your work with the infrastructure available in that geolocation? That's also very, very important, right? So they need to make adjustments to make sure that they create opportunities for their population. So with that, certainly the people who were a lot of empty buildings which are not there, the coffee make shops, the restaurants, the service industry around it is extremely affected. Now, what are the ways, again, with the public and private partnership, we can basically either retool those people to, to get this new part of the new share of the new opportunity, or, create opportunities that as we go to the hybrid workspace, then there is enough still, for people to participate in a positive way in the society. I'll leave it there. See if that
I get the impression from your last talk that it's here to stay, even post-COVID. This method of working.
Well, like I said, sir, nobody knows the future, but I think we have to, as a human being, plan. And I think the planning is where we are. What we know is that the world has changed. This is a new normal.
Exactly.
I didn't mean to say a new world order, but it's a new normal.
Exactly.
So in a new normal, we probably would see this for at least, and I see that in my lifetime, this would be the case.
Why not? Why not? I think if it's good for everybody, and I think especially for underdeveloped countries like ours, it's a boon, so to say. Blessing in disguise.
Opportunity,
Yes.
sir, I would say.
Because
at the same time, because that pandemic doesn't see the country passports or boundaries and stuff like that, right? So it's an opportunity.
Exactly. An excellent lecture, Aamer. Thank you very much for speaking to us. We all benefited from it. And I'll say goodbye. Thanks a lot.
I want to thank Salahuddin, sir, for giving me opportunity and inviting. Thank you all of you for participating. It's a great learning for myself as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Aamer. So kind of you for this excellent presentation, excellent talk. Really appreciate your valuable time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Aamer.
Thank you.
Aamer?